Hello, welcome scholars of British literature and students of Masterpieces of British Literature 1, English 3327. My name is Mr. Dr. Long, and in this day 11, video number 10, I'm going to go over the sound formations and pronunciation for Middle English as Chaucer would have used in his Canterbury Tales. And so that's what I would like to do today, and so that you can have a little bit of a sense of how the language was supposed to sound and an appreciation for that. Once you hear how it sounds, I think it's much more interesting, and you understand why it's poetry. It very much is poetry. It's meant to sound a certain way, and so I want to give you a sense of that. This is just a basic overview. What I'd like you to do is open up the attached document. This is the day 11 video script number 10. Open up that document, and that way you don't have to watch me the entire time. You can follow along as I introduce you to some of these sounds. Okay. On the first page, I have a section called Middle English Pronunciation and Grammar. I'm mainly going to go over pronunciation today. The source that I'm using is Daniel Donahue. He's a professor at Harvard University, and he's created a very good Middle English basic pronunciation and grammar web resource, and I put the link there. He actually has links where you can tap on these things and hear people pronounce the sounds that he's introducing. Okay. So there are three rules of Middle English sounds. One is what's called the vowel shift, where all the vowel sounds are shifted in a certain direction. So every vowel sound is different than how we pronounce our vowel sounds. The second rule is that all letters in words are pronounced. So words that we spell today, like N-I-G-H-T for night, you would have pronounced all those letters in the Middle English. In some ways, that's good news because it makes Middle English much more rule governed than our English language today, which is about 80% rule governed. And the other 20%, we just have to memorize words because they don't necessarily make sense. The GH in night, for example, is silent. But in Middle English, you would pronounce that. And I think it makes for very, very interesting sounds in the language. So I'm going to start with the Middle English vowels, or the vowel shifts. There's long vowels and there are short vowels. A long vowel we can think of as an A, E, I, or U. If we put an E on the end of the word, that vowel sound is longer. The short vowel sound is when we have just A, E, I, O, or U, and without an E on the end, then that sound is shorter. And I'm going to show you how to do this. So on the left hand, we have the Middle English, and on the right hand column, we have sounds like the modern. And in this script, the brackets it's meant to indicate a sound. And you should be able to pick that up fairly quickly. So in Middle English, if you see an I or Y, like mine or sight, and they spelled mine with a Y, then you would pronounce that Y with the E on the end like an E, as in the sound that you would make by saying the word beat. If you see an E or a double E, as in meet, or mete out punishment, then you would pronounce that double E or that E sound as with an A sound, as in bait. If you see a single E with an E on the end along, if you see a single E, then you would pronounce it as in bet. If you see an A or a double A, two letters together, then you would pronounce that as ah, as in bog. If you see an OU, which we would normally pronounce ow, or U, which we might pronounce oo, then you would pronounce those letters like an oo in boot. With the shift, if you see a double O like in boot, the word boot would be pronounced in Middle English with an O sound, long O sound, as in boat. So the word boot in Middle English is pronounced boat rather than boot. If you see a single O, as in loaf, L-O-F, then it's an open O and a short vowel. It's going to be pronounced ah, as in paw. Okay. We also have, in English, we also have what are called diphthongs, meaning two vowels together that make two sounds. So when we pronounce the letters AU as ow, okay, in Middle English, if you see the letters AU in a word, they're going to be pronounced ow. And if you think about it, those are two vowel sounds very close together, smashed very close together, like ow, ow. Okay. If you see an AI together or an AY together, which we would in modern English pronounce A, it's going to be pronounced I, as in I. So AY is pronounced I, as in truant. Okay. If you see two O's together in Middle English, word is going to be pronounced O, as in whole. If you see an OU together, it's going to be pronounced boot, as in our modern boot, boot. And if you see an OY together in Middle English, that's going to be pronounced oi, like our modern spelling and pronunciation. The second rule in Middle English is that all consonants are in letters. All consonant letters in a word are going to be pronounced or voiced. So some people might take that as good news. It means that in Middle English, it's mostly rule governed again. We don't have to remember. We just have to remember to always pronounce every letter. We don't have to remember not to pronounce a letter if we're learning English. Here's the weird thing, is that we have to look at Middle English words that are spelled the same way we spell them today. They're the same words we use today, and they're spelled the same way in Middle English. And we have to pronounce them literally the way they're spelled. So there are words that we don't even think about, like the word to, T-W-O. We don't even pay any attention to that word. And we pronounce it the same way we would spell to, like to go somewhere, or to, he's too heavy, T-O or T-O-O. In Middle English, we're going to pronounce that W. And the O is not going to be pronounced oo, it's going to be pronounced ah. And so the word to is pronounced toi, toi. Right. Consonant combinations. In English, we still have carryover words that are spelled the same way as they were in the Middle English period. We don't even think about these again. We spell our common night, like he slept through the night, with a GH in the middle, or sight with a GH in the middle. In Middle English, those consonants, letters would have been pronounced. So when you see the word night, K-N-I-G-H-T, in Middle English, you're going to pronounce that K-N sound as k-n, k-n, k-n. And you're going to pronounce the word night, knicht, knicht, knicht. If the knight has something, has possession of something, and we would normally spell that the knight's sword, we would pronounce that in Middle English, knichtus, knichtus sword. Okay, Likewise, if we have the word night and there's a GH in the middle of that word, and we see the word night, N-I-G-H-T, the word night in Middle English is going to have that GH voiced as nicht, nicht. Okay. The third rule, and this pertains particularly to Chaucer's prosody, or the way the meter of his lines are pronounced, is at the end of a line of poetry, we voice the last vowel. So if there's an E on the end of a word in a line of poetry in Chaucer, we're going to pronounce the Y. We're going to pronounce the sound at the end of the line. This makes it much easier for poets to rhyme with poetry. And it makes the meter consistent. Okay, so if we see the word I-E-Y-E, like our eyeball at the end of a line in Chaucer, that's going to be pronounced Iya, Iya, not I, Iya. Okay. I was hooked on Chaucer the first time I heard someone read his work in Middle English dialect or pronunciation. On your document, the title at the top of the general prologue of Chaucer's Canterbury Tales reads in modern English, "Here beginneth the book of the Tales of Canterbury." Here begins the book of the Tales of Canterbury. That doesn't sound nearly as interesting as the way the narrator pronounced it when I first heard someone read in Middle English. And that goes like this. Here beginneth the book of the Tales of Canterbury. Here beginneth the book of the Tales of Canterbury. He said it really fast. Here beginneth the book of the Tales of Canterbury. Right? He pronounced the double O with that long O, bulk. He pronounced tales rather than tales, talis, and Canterbury. Canterbury. Okay, so I'm going to read the beginning of the general prologue in Middle English pronunciation. What I've done is put the Middle English spelling of the line on the left-hand column and the pronunciation phonetically on the right-hand column, so you can kind of follow along and listen, see and listen to how that's pronounced. So it goes something like this. One that April, with the shores sota, the drucht of March hath pierced to the rota, and bathed every vine in switch liqueur, of which virtue engendered is the fluor. Juan Zephyrus, eke with his sweet breath, inspired hath in every holten haith, the tender crapus and the younger sonna, hath in the ram his half-course urana, and small fools maken melodie, that slepen all the nicht with open ear, so pricket them natuur in her courages, so pricket them natuur in her courages. Then langen folk to go on pilgrimages, and palmers for to seken strange strondes, to ferne halways, quoth in sundry londes. And specially from every sheerest inde of England to Canterbury they winde, the holy blissful martyr for to seke, that he might holpen, one that they were seke. Okay, let's translate that. One the top with the shortest sota. When in April, with April's sweet showers, the drucht of March hath pierced to the rota. When the showers have pierced the drought of March, of the month of March, to the root, and bathed every vine in such liqueur, and bathed every vein in such liqueur, of which in virtue engendered is the fluor, which has the power, virtue which has the power to, the causal power to create flowers. Juan Zephyrus ek with his sweet breath. Wind Zephyrus, the god of the winds, also with his sweet breath, inspired hath in every holten heath, has inspired, has infiltrated, has spread itself through every holt and heath, every part of the country. The tender cropus, inspired hath in every holt and heath the tender cropus. The wind has inspired, has influenced, has blown against all the tender crops. And the younger sona hath in his half, in the ram, his half course Irana. Here Chaucer's writing about the astrology and basically your astrological sign. When the sun has reached the halfway point of its course through the segment in the zodiac of the ram, his half course Irana, and smaller foles maken melodie that sleep in all the night with open ear. They believed that some birds did not sleep, or they slept all night with open eyes. And the small fowls, the small birds make melody that sleep all night with open eyes. So pricatum natur in your garages. So pricatum natur, it is because it's their nature to do so in their garages. And it's in their nature and in their power to do so. Notice the word HIR is a collective second person pronoun to stand. It's the equivalent of their in our language. In our modern English, their garages. In Middle English, it's pronounced HIR, HIR, your garages. Dan langen folk to go on pilgrimage. Then folks long to go on pilgrimages, and palmers for to seek strange shores. But it's much more beautiful. And palmers for to seek and strange strondes, strange shores. To ferna halloes koth in Sunderlandes, to shrines and holy spots in every shire's end. And especially from every shires in England to Canterbury the window. From every shire, from the farthest extent of every shire of England, they wind their way to Canterbury, the site where Thomas à Becket was murdered and became a holy martyr. And it says they seek out his help. They prayed on his behalf, or prayed for his blessings when they were sick. One that they were sick. I want everybody to notice that a shire is like a county. It's like our county. It's like a small municipality within the country, and the shire had its own government, its own governors, its own legal law enforcement apparatus and things like that. I mentioned law enforcement apparatus because a reef was the head of the law enforcement for a shire, and so if you were a shire reef, you were the head law authority in the shire, and that's where we get our shortened term of sheriff. Comes from shire reef. Okay. We live with medieval, the carryover of medieval times today. We are the beneficiaries. We've received a lot of culture from medieval times, and we still have it with us, and it has not left the way we spell words and our vocabulary, and many of our professional names that are very, very old originated in Middle English and before that. So I hope this is interesting. You can look at this document. A good thing to do is just go through and listen to it. There are plenty of podcasts online where you can listen to other people pronounce the general prologue or recite the general prologue in Middle English. And I think it's a good idea to just look at it and listen to it over and over again until you begin to link up the sounds of the words with the way they look on the page. I think it'll be very, very pleasing to you to be able to hear and recite how that's supposed to sound. Hopefully this video has been helpful and educational for you, and if there's anything that you would like me to do better or anything you're not clear about, please contact me by email. My email is slong2@central.uh.edu, and I hope you have a good day. Stay tuned for another video on Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. Thank you very much.